The spirit of the bridge has drifted far from its former shade. In days of old, through the raw 70s to the fading 90s, Chelsea supporters had a notorious reputation, largely due to the actions of a violent minority known as the Headhunters. This firm was infamous for organised violence, racism, and links to far-right groups like Combat 18, a group that adopted neo-Nazi ideology and favoured violent direct action over electoral politics. During this period, football hooliganism was a widespread problem in England, and the notorious Headhunters firm was heavily associated with violence and disorder.
The Chelsea mob. All 9 are charged with conspiracy to cause a fray.
Football hooligans calling themselves the Chelsea mob. Police read, according to you have been nominated and dealt with by the Chelsea Headhunters.
24 mounted police charged onto the pitch at Stamford Bridge last night as rival fans.
In the twilight of the 1960s, this dark tale of Chelsea took root with the Chelsea Shed Boys, a band of rebels whose legacy morphed into the dark infamy of the Chelsea Headhunters. It grew out of the broader rise in UK football violence during this period. The social vice was at its peak in the 70s and 80s, surging across the land, kindled by social unrest, economic decay, and fervent tribal feuds, as the Headhunters' grim fame rose to its zenith.
Were you at the Chelsea game, the last one?
Yeah.
How far do you think Derby County was to blame for the trouble like that?
They weren't at all. It was just the Chelsea fans. I mean, they started throwing the seats onto their own supporters. There was no Derby fans there at all.
They became infamous for organised violence, often clashing with rival firms before and after matches, with a reputation for targeting opposition fans in their home stands. In 1982, when Ken Bates bought Chelsea, he implemented measures to curb hooliganism at the stadium, as the crumbling Stamford Bridge, particularly the Shed End, was a hotspot for trouble.
In the meantime, we wait with great interest to hear from politicians and civil servants, local and from Westminster, what they suggest we do about football hooliganism instead of being utterly connected.
Bates introduced measures like electric perimeter fencing and membership schemes to control crowds, but hooliganism persisted, especially during away games. Yet, it was the tragic night at Heysel Stadium, May 29, 1985, where sorrow's weight fell heavy, stirring English football's guardians to rise and act.
Liverpool supporters began a running battle against Italian followers of Juventus at the European Cup final in the Heysel Stadium in Brussels. The result was horrific.
On May 29, 1985, before the European Cup final between Liverpool and Juventus at Heysel Stadium in Brussels, Belgium, a group of Liverpool fans breached a flimsy fence about an hour before kickoff, separating them from a neutral section largely occupied by Juventus supporters. As Juventus fans fled, they were pressed against a crumbling concrete wall which collapsed, causing a deadly crush. The disaster resulted in the deaths of 39 people, mostly Juventus fans, and injured around 600 others. UEFA took decisive action against English clubs, banning all English clubs from European competitions for 5 years, with Liverpool facing an additional year, later reduced. 34 people were arrested, and 26 Liverpool fans were extradited to Belgium, where 14 were convicted of manslaughter and served about 1 year of their 3-year sentences. The disaster marked a turning point for British authorities in addressing football hooliganism. The government, led by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, launched a crackdown on hooligan firms, including the Chelsea Headhunters, who were among the most feared groups. The police established dedicated units to gather intelligence on hooligan groups. Informants within football firms and surveillance operations were critical in identifying leaders.
A wide cross-section of society. Some of them we know are actually skilled people who are, employed in good jobs. Other people are and have been unemployed people. What seems to bind them together, and one consistent factor, is their willingness and their ability to actually orchestrate and arrange violence.
It's a rogues gallery of some of the most dangerous hooligans in the country, and what is more remarkable, they all follow one team. Collectively, they are known as the Chelsea Headhunters. The files reveal an intimidating record of violence.
Through these efforts, notorious Headhunters, draped in striking monikers, were unmasked as architects of turmoil. The Home Office reported 5,750 arrests for football-related offences in the 1985-86 season, with Chelsea fans accounting for a significant portion as part of the nationwide crackdown on hooliganism. The crackdown led to dozens of headhunters receiving prison sentences or football banning orders restricting their attendance at matches. In 1989, a sombre veil fell over England. The Hillsborough disaster, which stole 97 breaths, shaking the nation's soul. Taylor report following the disaster identified police failures as the primary cause and dismissed hooliganism claims. The report emphasized improving stadium safety rather than directly targeting hooliganism. The shift to all-seater stadiums, better crowd management, and enhanced safety regulations, such as improved stewarding and CCTV, created safer, more controlled environments, indirectly reducing hooliganism inside stadiums. In 1999, Irish investigative journalist Donal McIntyre went undercover for the BBC documentary series McIntyre Undercover. He posed as a hooligan, spending nearly a year embedding himself with the Chelsea Headhunters, wearing a hidden camera, and even getting a Chelsea tattoo to gain their trust. The documentary, aired on November 9, 1999, exposed the Headhunters' organised violence, racism, and ties to far-right groups like Combat 18 and the National Front. McIntyre Undercover exposed two key headhunters, Jason Mariner, often referred to as a general or top boy, and Andrew Frayne, aka Nightmare. Mariner, a renowned headhunter in the 1990s, and his associates evaded authorities by organising violence away from stadiums, using pubs as meeting points and communicating through informal networks to avoid surveillance.
Hello Dave, it's Nightmare. Alright, are you on the road, yeah?
McIntyre Undercover captured him planning violence and boasting about organising hooligans for a Football League match. The documentary also provided sufficient evidence, including footage of Mariner shouting, "We've come here to have a war," at a Chelsea match in Copenhagen.
Here we go, we come here to have a war!
And Frayne boasting about possessing Ku Klux Klan calling cards.
I've got a pocket full of Ku Klux Klan calling cards. That didn't go down too well.
As a result of the documentary's evidence, Mariner was sentenced to 6 years in prison in 2000 for violent disorder and banned from football grounds for 10 years. He was convicted alongside Andrew Frayne, aka Nightmare. Frayne, known for orchestrating violence, had prior convictions for burglary, possession of offensive weapons, and importing drugs. He also had links to racist groups like Combat 18 and the Ku Klux Klan, where he held the title of Grand Night Hawk. Frayne received a 7-year sentence for planning violence, as exposed by McIntyre's documentary. The documentary also led to the conviction of several other members for their involvement in football violence. Amid the hooliganism crackdowns, Chelsea's fortunes improved in the 1990s under managers like Ruud Gullit and Gianluca Vialli, with signings like Gianfranco Zola, drawing a more diverse global fan base. The club's gentrification, especially after Roman Abramovich's 2003 takeover, shifted Stamford Bridge's atmosphere toward families and corporate supporters. Ticket prices rose significantly, particularly after 2003, pricing out some working-class, hooligan-associated fans who had dominated the terraces in the 1970s and 1980s, replacing them with middle-class and international supporters less inclined toward violence. Alongside these cultural shifts, Chelsea, under pressure from the Football Association, FA, and the UK government, actively distanced itself from hooliganism. The club cooperated with police to identify and ban troublemakers, as seen in the response to the 2014 Paris Metro incident, where Chelsea issued lifetime bans to fans involved in racist behaviour. Police operations, like the Operation Turnhill after the 2010 Chelsea-Cardiff City clash, relied on extensive CCTV footage to identify and convict hooligans, charging 96 individuals. Enhanced surveillance in and around stadiums now made it riskier for organised firms to operate, pushing violent elements to the fringes. Chelsea's hooligan era left a lasting stigma, with the Headhunters still cited in discussions of football's troubled history. While isolated incidents occur, hooliganism is no longer a defining feature of Chelsea's fanbase. The club has actively distanced itself from this past through initiatives to combat racism and promote inclusivity. The Headhunters today are largely defunct, with most activity limited to older members or minor skirmishes. Fan groups like the Chelsea Supporters Trust, formed in 2012, focus on community engagement and advocacy rather than violence. In short, Chelsea fans are significantly less violent and racist than in the past, though claims of an entirely harmonious fanbase are exaggerated. They remain passionate, sometimes to a fault, but while the club's efforts have curbed the worst behaviours, a vocal minority keeps the fanbase's reputation a work in progress.